everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on Hospitality Today Live. I'm Deborah Gardner, your host, where we actually enjoy having so many hospitality professionals here live talking about real life topics through their own perspective, opinions, stories, and lessons. And today I have a very special guest that is going to give you the most relevant topic today. Her name is Dawn Penfold. She used to actually be a meeting professional. Today, she is the president of meetingjobs. And Dawn, talking about relevancy, you're all probably looking for a job or wanting to get an employee that actually has the skill sets, then you're going to not want to miss today's show. She is actually going to talk about this and many things, from skill sets of what employees are looking for, those skill sets that are transferable if you switch industries, whether coming into the hospitality industry or not, and how the hiring process has actually changed during this actually interesting pandemic that we're in. So you're not going to want to miss Dawn Penfold with meetingjobs starting now. Today's episode is brought to you by visiblymedia, helping businesses communicate strategically in print and online. visiblymedia.com. Well, thank you so much for everybody for staying with us right now. We actually have Dawn Penfold, who actually is joining us live right now from North Carolina. Hi, Dawn. Welcome.
Hi, Deborah. It's good to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. So glad you are here with us today. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to uncover, because like I mentioned, this is a very relevant topic that we're going to talk about regarding meetings and the jobs in the industry. But first, before we get into all of this, could you share with our viewers what meetingjobs is all about?
Sure. And first of all, I want to acknowledge you. The programming that you've been doing during this pandemic has just been spectacular, and the service it has provided to our industry is just wonderful. So thank you. So Meetingjobs is a search firm specializing in the meetings industry. It's been around. I started in 1990, so been over 30 years, and we are a job board that is a niche job board that specializes in meetings and events. We also are a retained search firm, and we are also we offer service in pre-qualifying resumes. And that's really big right now, because what we're finding is that the average job posting, when they do get posted, is getting 500 to 600, 700 resumes. And so we're offering the service to pre-qualify for hiring officials. Then recently, we just merged with a wonderful company called Cadre. And Cadre is all I can say is imagine Uber and LinkedIn and Google all mixing together and providing a platform for on-site temporary event and meeting people, as well as project managers in the meetings industry. And everything is compliant, online, and serviceable for anybody who's coming back into the industry right now. So with those two companies, we're providing talent in all areas.
Okay, that's good. Then it seems like a lot of companies today are doing a lot of merging and partnering up in order to provide better service for their customers. And it's the same thing when it comes to meetings and jobs, I guess, right?
Well, yeah, and I think that, and again, that's right. A lot of people are partnering together. A lot of people are gathering their thoughts together, because we're in this together. And that theme has been running since last March, that we're all in this together. So why not work together and try to create a platform or create activity that we can all benefit from?
Right, exactly. And you made a really good point too. It's since last March, we've been doing this all together, and I can't believe it's been a complete year. I think the only difference is now that we have toilet paper, everything else seems to be the same at
Exactly.
this
There's no
point.
fear.
Exactly. Well, let's get to the nuts and bolts of talking about meetings and the jobs. It wasn't just until I think it was yesterday that I was reading from the U.S. Bureau of Labor that nearly a quarter of the workforce hit the hospitality industry the hardest. And therefore, we still have about 13.5 percent of hospitality people that are out of work, still unemployed. But last month, it looked like there was a gain of about 355,000 jobs, and that was in February. And it looks like some of the sector within that area, there were some increases that helped the hospitality industry, like food and beverage, accommodations, gambling, and recreation, all that's related to the hospitality industry. So does this mean that there is some optimism of meetings coming back already?
Okay, first of all, that 13% I think is a low number. I don't
Okay.
think it truly reflects the number of people who are out of work right now, because that doesn't reflect possibly the meetings and the events industry. When they're taking those numbers, they're looking at hospitality, hotel, airlines, all the supporting services. So I feel that number is very low. Optimism, yes. I mean, as vaccines happen and people feel more at ease with gathering, I think we're going to find that people will then feel that they can gather, and that we're going to start going back to the hotels, start going back to the convention centers. But I don't think it'll be like it was. I don't think that those days of cramming in 2,000 people into a ballroom is going to happen again. I think we'll always have the virtual meetings, the hybrid aspect. I think there will always be distancing. I think there will always be those people who will be wearing masks. I think there will always be those people who will, are you vaccinated? Are you not vaccinated? I think there's always going to be that aspect. So optimistically, yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I know just on our job board, we had 5 postings last month. That was more than we had last year.
Wow. Interesting.
So, but the common thread in all 5 positions was that they were requiring virtual meetings experience.
Okay.
And hybrid experience.
Okay. Well, and that's interesting, because maybe we need to get you on the Bureau of the U.S. Bureau of Labor to understand our industry, which is always a struggle, right? I mean, people really don't understand what we do. Sometimes I have to laugh because even my friends and family don't know what I do. But I think the U.S. Bureau of Labor needs a little bit of education as well, according to what you're saying. And we are taking some questions and some comments too. And Sean Eckerman with EPRO actually agrees with you, because it seems as though people are still furloughed, and we need to work on that and get other people educated. As a matter of fact, there was another report that I wanted to share with you too, because to relay on what you and Sean are mentioning, is that there might be even a possible wave of hotel foreclosures, according to the TRIP report, which in turn means there'll be no jobs in the hotel sector, right?
Right. Those jobs won't be there. And where will those people go? Will they
Right.
for their skills? Will they be going to many of these jobs are, that is the only knowledge area that they have, so it'll be difficult to find out where these people go. If there's not a hotel to have a meeting in, where will the people meet? So that then goes to the associations, to the corporations of, will there be meeting professionals planning meetings that can't be attended someplace?
Right.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah, it really is. And I understand already that a lot of the hospitality workers have been leaving more than coming in. I've seen, head waiters in restaurants become grocery clerks. I've seen conference coordinators going to go work for software companies. I've seen hotel salespeople get their real estate license. Are we going to lose that workforce, and then we're going to have to regain that back in and train all these people? Well, what's going to happen?
Okay, it's not are we going to, we have lost a lot of brain trust in our industry already. People have gone on to other careers. Where I've seen people go is real estate, is working for continuing care facilities, working in for community development in towns and cities that may have logistics managers. So we have lost brain trust in our industry. The other area that's going to be very difficult coming down the road is that if we go 1 or 2 years without hiring people, when 2 years from now, that person wants somebody with 2 to 3 years experience and is looking for that person, they will be non-existent because nobody hired that entry-level person right now.
Right.
So and that's happened before in past economies. That's happened in past recessions, where there's all of a sudden been this lack of talent with 2 to 4 years experience because nobody was hiring during that time period.
And I think another concern by then, when it's time to actually get people back to work, I understand a big concern is AI. A lot of these jobs are being replaced by technology like AI. And we've already seen it happening with housekeeping robots, bellman robots. Do you see this even happening even more?
Well, where I'm seeing AI start to play a role is in the hiring process. So hiring officials, human resources was another area that was gutted of corporations and associations with this pandemic downturn. So what I'm seeing that they are using AI in the interviewing process, and it's so science fiction for me, but these AI programs are deciphering, they're deciphering body language, the amount of times people blinked, the face recognition, the voice inflection. And so I think that AI is going to be in that area. I don't know when it comes to logistics, setting up logistics or strategic management when it comes to meetings and events or producing. I mean, I think one of the things that the pandemic has produced are meeting producers, not just meeting planners, not just meeting coordinators or event planners. They're producers. They're taking so many variants and putting it together to create this meeting.
So where are the jobs then? From what I understand,
there are.
Right. I know. Well, but I do understand though, because of COVID and everything, that janitorial type of jobs are still there in the hospitality industry and everywhere else probably. But I think this means that if there are no jobs, people are going to have to start being more creative. And
I know my industry. I know the industry of meetings and events. I don't know as much about logistics or with staffing at hotels in that area. But I know that what I'm thinking, and again, I'm not the extreme, I'm not the complete expert on this, but if I looked at different recessions and I looked at different patterns, what traditionally happens is that the hiring process is slow. We're a lagging indicator in our industry. And so what I think is going to happen is that as companies and associations start hiring, they're going to start hiring on a project basis or a day basis first, because they don't want to bring the person on full time in case we go into another pandemic, in case there's another variant that comes out. They don't want to go through that again. So they may hire somebody for 3 months. They may hire somebody for 2 months. They may hire somebody for a project. They may hire somebody for a day. So I think they'll bring people on a temporary basis. The gig economy, I think, is going to be where we're going to be going. And then as everything straightens up, as we reach herd immunity, I don't even realize we're talking these terms. Last year, we didn't even know this stuff. But as we reach this point, then they'll start hiring permanent positions. And then from permanent positions, then we'll be more stable. But if the economy falls again, then they start laying off again, going to project people, going to temporary people, and then we go into complete layoffs. It's just a bell curve that goes up and down.
Well, and Sean made another comment, a very good comment. He agrees with you, and it looks like it's called shared services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. Thank you, Sean, because I think that there's a lot of hesitancy on what kind of employees organizations are going to be hiring to make sure that they are the type to be longevity, but who knows? Like you said, we don't know. This is not our first rodeo. We've been through this. You and I have been in this industry long enough to know we've been through this many times, and it's going to happen again. So I think this was just a huge beast of an animal that organizations are, like you and Sean are saying, are going to take a little step back and really make sure that they got the right people in place.
And I have to be honest with you, when I merged with another company, there was a serious reason I did it, because I had been on my own for 30 years. And before you marry into another company, you have to know why you do it. And one of those reasons was because I felt so strongly about this project management because of this temporary aspect, that it had to be done compliantly and legally. And I just think that's shared services. You're building your own team with
Right.
good workers.
Right. So now, what the industry looks like it really needs is to have a kickstart of confidence in each other and trying to figure out how to work with each other. So somebody looking for a job is going to have to look at themselves and what they have to offer more now than ever, and interview the organization that they want to be, and vice versa.
Well, yeah. And also, you don't start looking for a job when you just need that job. You start looking for your job throughout your entire career. That is a process. It is a process. Okay. So if you are now thinking, well, maybe I'll look for a job in a couple of months. No, start now. You should be networking. You should be learning. I mean, there are so many. What I've seen, which is spectacular in our industry, is the amount of education that has been offered online. People are getting certifications in pandemic awareness, in safety procedures, in hybrid meetings, in virtual meetings, and everything. You should be honing up on those skills now, because when people start hiring, they're going to want those skills. They're going to want that information.
Right.
On-the-job training doesn't work anymore.
Okay. That's good to know, because then not only are they going to have those type of skills that the employer might be looking for, how do they get noticed above and beyond? How do they stand out? Because skills, yes, that's a given now, right?
I think part of it is you've got to create yourself as the expert. You've got to be out there. And it's very hard because you can't go to an MPI function anymore and socialize it, or join a committee and go to committee meetings. You can't do that right now. But what you can do is be active online. You can be part of programming. You can be, I tell people, be on LinkedIn. Have a professional LinkedIn life. Post articles, share articles, make comments with people, create your network. LinkedIn is so key now for the job.
I don't see people really utilizing it above and beyond anything about social media. Should people be on social media and not only, looking at their LinkedIn like they should, but should they be on social media going, hey, I'm looking for a job?
Yeah. If you're looking for a job, you need to do everything you can to get out there.
Okay, so we need to see more aggressiveness out there then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. If you're looking for, and see, I also think that without stalking people, what you should be doing is, if you want to work for a certain company, look up to see who's on LinkedIn that's from those companies.
Okay.
And we used to be able to go on informational interviews where you could call somebody up and you'd say, can I come in and spend 15 minutes of your time?
Right.
And you would bring them a cup of coffee and you'd sit in their office. They'd be flattered because you considered them an expert. It was a soft sell for job hunting.
Right.
And you can't do that anymore, but you can do it online. You can do it through LinkedIn. You can get there and you can say, send them a message. Then you can say, can I have a quick Zoom call with you? I would love to have 10 minutes of your time to pick your brain. When you're doing these informational Zoom calls or your informational interviews, do not go having that person think you're looking for a job. You're looking for information.
Okay.
They can answer. Otherwise, if they think you're looking for a job, they're going to turn you down because they don't have a job for you.
Right.
But
Right.
they have information. They know what their job is. And then when jobs open up, they may think of you. I've
Wow.
always said the network is my biggest competition.
Okay. Okay. I never thought about that before. Going in and getting the information, because you never know where that could lead you to. And when they do have that opening job. Yeah.
Send you to somebody else, ask them, and always end it with asking them, what can I do for you?
Oh my gosh. That's very, that was a golden nugget right there that I don't think a lot of people understand. And going in it with a desperate mindset is just not going to happen. Instead, build your network. And even Sean, I love Sean's participation today, pivot, rebrand.
I want to meet Sean.
Yeah, he's great, isn't he? And be professional on social media. Build your network. Exactly what you've been saying this entire time, Dawn, is it's all about focusing on that network and making sure that is the key.
And I know it sounds old-fashioned. but if at all possible, if you know the person's address at their company or whatever, send them a handwritten thank you note for their time.
Yeah, absolutely.
How far a handwritten thank you note goes.
Oh yeah, isn't that the truth? Nobody does that anymore. Yeah. So what about those that need to be relevant remotely? Are there any rules or any guidelines for people that want to do everything remotely? Because think about it, we've been isolated for over a year, and the younger generation coming in is being trained this way. It's hard to get out there and network other than, social media. Being relevant remotely, that's got to be hard.
Well, the generation coming up, I found before the pandemic, were not good networkers face-to-face. Nothing has changed. They were more comfortable being online. They were more comfortable. It was my generation that was, let me shake your hand, let me sit down, let me have a cocktail with you, let me do all this. I found the generation that's coming up was more comfortable remotely in the first place. So that hasn't changed much. But what, again, you have to do is set up through different chats, through different focus groups, through different, organizations. I mean, both MPI, PCMA, the Special Events Society, they all have set up great programs and networking opportunities online. And that's where you should direct your efforts. And, and I want to emphasize, your online presence also have to be pristine. This is, if you're job hunting or wanting to move your career ahead, this is not the time to have a picture of you with a sombrero on your head and shots.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the time to do it. This is not, you need to have a professional presence.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And Jennifer, who's popped on here for the show, she says the note is a great idea, but most are working remotely these days.
They are, but the corporations, the mail hasn't stopped. And when you write a letter to a corporation, they're doing mail pouches to people who are working remotely. So they're doing PO box drops, and you can only do your best. You're right. I mean, you don't want to ask somebody what their home address is, because then you're going to be looked at as like a stalker. But if there is a corporate headquarter, they're doing mail drops, they're forwarding through. But if you feel uncomfortable with that handwritten note, an email would be also very thoughtful. Not a text. Do not send a thank you note by text.
Right. And make your email personalized.
Personalize it. Personalize it to the conversation.
Oh, there you go. That's a good idea. Yeah, because then they'll know you put some time and effort into it and you've been thinking about the conversation.
Yeah. In fact, I had a conversation, many people who are watching will know, with Wayne Robinson from FM Global last week. And he was saying that when he went to get a position, he interviewed 13 people in one day. And it was 13 interviews, one right after another. But he got each and every one of their business cards and wrote notes when he was walking to the next interview. And when he left that interview, he wrote everybody a thank you note. Wow. And addressed those specific things. And he feels that's what got him the job.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, those personal touches mean everything. Yeah. Definitely mean everything. Yeah. So, now, is our
something else about remote workers?
Sure.
Our industry, the meetings and events industry, was like a dog being dragged through the mud about allowing people to work remotely and from home. There were some major organizations that completely embraced it and were very successful with it, but by and large, they weren't. The pandemic forced that situation. And I think what we're going to be finding now is the trend is that organizations are going to be much more open to have people work remotely from home. The impact of that will be twofold. One is, before, if you were looking for a job, you lived in Chicago, you would be considered seriously for jobs in Chicago, not in Washington, D.C., not in New York. Now, if you're in Chicago, you may be considered qualified for jobs in Washington, New York, LA, San Francisco, wherever.
Right.
The other dilemma, though, is that all of a sudden now the competition has become much fiercer. Yes. So you've got to be prepared. Right. So remote has been good and bad.
Good point. Good point. Things, boy, different rules for the remote people. Yeah, definitely. Now, do you think elevator speeches are still a popular thing?
Absolutely. Elevator speeches, you still have to know what your brand is and how to quickly get that out. You may not be, now we get on an elevator and we hold our breath if we get on an elevator, but elevator speeches are very important for when somebody says quickly, tell me what you do, tell me what your goals are, tell me where you want to be. And so you should know that 2-sentence sales pitch about you. Okay.
And when somebody wants to develop a elevator speech or any other type of services, do they get that through you as well? Or or they need to actually go and talk to some experts in that area?
No, we don't write resumes. We will refer people over that we would recommend to write resumes.
Okay, you have a resource list.
We have a resource list of people who will recommend to write resumes, to help you with LinkedIn profiles, help you with cover letters, but we personally don't do it.
Okay. And before the show, you and I were talking about the ethical side. Yeah, right. The ethical side of the business. And we had Joan Eisenstadt, who is an expert in ethics, last week, who just blew it out of the water. She just gave us so many golden nuggets. But is there anything that people need to realize or understand when they're actually looking for a job when it comes to ethics?
And I really hope Joan listens to this, because she asked me to cover the ethics. When it comes to job search, the ethical side of it is truth. That's what I feel that you have to stick to. You should have a strong resume. You should have a resume that really highlights your strengths, but it should not be a resume that is embellished to the point where it's not factual. It is so easy now. Make sure that you do that. I mean, I always advise people to look at the ad when they're applying for a job. And I want to talk about this a little bit more later, and make sure those points are in your resume. If you don't have that experience, you shouldn't add it to your resume if that's not your experience. So lying on a resume you'll get caught. Yeah. The other thing is that I have seen people who've put on their resume that they're CMPs. or CMMs, or that they graduated from a certain college, or that they are members of a professional association. I check those things. And I would say that I have caught people who said that they have bachelor's degrees, they have master's. I had one candidate who lost a job because she said she had a master's in business. It wasn't even required to have a degree. And she lied about her degree and lost a great job.
Oh my God.
The ethics involved is truth, is being truthful on your resume.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And Sean has a very good point as well. You know, change your resume to reflect the job description.
Let's talk about that, because we were going to bring that up anyway.
Good.
When you apply for, traditionally when you apply for a position, you're working with an applicant tracking system. So you're applying online and you're working with an applicant tracking system. It is usually the third stage before a human even actually looks at your resume. So the applicant tracking system is designed to look for keywords, key phrases, key number of years, and it is designed to do that. And then it bumps you up into an A pile or higher up in the pile.
Oh.
So when you are applying for a job, a prime example in our industry is if somebody says they're looking for a conference planner with 3 to 5 years experience. Now, if you're a meeting planner with 3 to 5 years experience, and that's what your resume says, you may be bumped down on the level because the applicant tracking system is looking for the keywords of conference, not meeting. But we all know that conference and meeting is the same. So what you should do is change your resume where it says meeting, put in conference, and that will increase your chances. Now, if you don't have that experience, do not put it in just to get bumped up higher. I mean, I've seen what some people have done, and but that's what you should do. Look at the ad. And I also encourage people to apply for jobs that they're qualified for. If they're looking for somebody with 3 to 5 years experience, they're really not looking for somebody with 15 to 20 years experience.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay.
They want, at certain levels, they want somebody at a certain level for pay scale, for growth aspect, for the type of work that they do. And even though somebody with 15 or 20 years experience could easily do the job of somebody with 3 to 5 years experience, they're in a different place in their career.
Right.
And so apply for a job that you are actually qualified for and that you would want to do.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
But again, change your resume according to what the requirements of the position are for.
Okay.
And also repeat, when I always say, when you do a cover note, repeat the ad, in your cover note and say, you are looking for, if the ad says they're looking for 3 to 5 years conference planning experience, international experience, incentive programs. In your cover note and your resume, but in your cover note, it should say, I'm a meeting planner with 3 to 5 years experience. I have done incentive programs. I've got international experience, because they're like, aha, this is our person.
Okay.
So tell them what they are looking for.
That makes sense. So that way it's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, be truthful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. If not, you got Joan Eisenstadt on you. So we got to watch out for her. Now, yesterday, we know that it was celebrated as Women's International Day.
Yeah.
And I know in this past year, I was watching the Today Show, and they were talking about 2 million women have lost their jobs last year, especially women of color. And we know in the hospitality industry, women are essential because majority of employers are women. Is there anything that women can do better or more in the hospitality industry to be noticed as far as any of these jobs, especially the executive level?
Play the game. You know, it's, we traditionally, female, as in we don't put ourselves out there to show our value, our accomplishments. You know, we don't have, we're just not that, not made up of that. And you have to do that. You have to make yourself known. You have to network. You have to be part of the game playing. Politics is very key, not politics as in Washington politics, but corporate politics and politics from where you work are very key to be part of that. And I'm not just saying it's the game, but to actually, even though that's part of it, but be aware of how you can grow within an organization. Benchmark people who have grown in, you know, and who have moved up the ladder and mimic that. Find out what it is. Women usually don't mimic that. You know, stats have shown, demographic studies, is that women will tend to stay in a comfort zone because they have so many other responsibilities. So I urge them to get out of that comfort zone.
Okay,
And I want to give a stupid analogy, and this really is a stupid analogy. When I say play the game, when I was a meeting planner, I started playing golf. And I started playing golf because I would be on a foursome with other partners and other people in the firm and the corporation. Not many women at that time were playing golf. You know, I could then spend 6 quality hours with people. And I was noticing that the men in the company and the organization were getting that quality time with the upper level management. I couldn't say, oh, let's go shopping for 5 hours and get away with it.
Right.
And I'm not saying that women should go out there and take golf lessons and start playing golf, but I want the concept, the mental note of what do I need to do to get in and benchmark my way up and find out who those decision makers are and get noticed by them.
Okay.
And not be afraid of holding back. You've got to push. You've got to be able to showcase yourself. You've got to be able to present yourself.
And I think that's what you said earlier, getting out of their comfort zone. I think that is the very first step. How did they do that? I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you of trying something new and different, but I think it's something instilled in women that think that they are not worthy to have these type of positions.
Find a mentor.
Good point.
Find a mentor who will lead you along. You know, that is very key. Find a mentor.
And maybe a mentor as a male mentor.
Yeah. And I mean, not only find a mentor within your organization, but find a mentor also through, you know, women's groups and everything who can bring you up. You know, we are at the point now where we are seeing women who are presidents and major contributors in our hospitality industry now. You know, Christine Duffy. You know, we've got great women out there who are.
We do.
Again, information interview. Contact those people. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? You know, get gutsy.
And tell them what you're trying to get accomplished.
Why you want to. I mean, when people call me up and say, I want to talk to you about my career, and I'll respond and say, I would love to talk to you about your career. What do you want to talk about? Well, I don't know. Well, no, I need to know what you want to talk about. So be specific.
That's, I think, is what's missing. I agree with you on that. Okay, good. That's good to hear. I'd love to see more women get into those executive positions more and more because we've got such a brilliant lineup in the industry over the 30 years that I've been in it.
I have to tell you, though, in the meetings and the hospitality industry, women have done quite well. They really have. They've moved up within the ranks quite well.
That's good. Good to hear that. Good to hear that. And now we need to mentor those that are coming up. So that's a constant process. Okay, good deal. Well, I know also that the vaccine can be playing a part in and jobs. Would love to have your perspective, your thoughts and opinions pertaining to what's going to be happening with these vaccines if people decide not to get them, or if they do, what's going to happen as you're trying to get a job? Is it important to get a vaccine?
Well, that's a loaded question because there's so many issues that are involved with the vaccine.
Yes, there is. You're right.
I'm a double-shotted person, so I've gotten both my vaccines. And I have to say, even just personally, the liberation that you feel once you get that second shot and that 2 weeks go by and you realize that, God, a good portion of my life can come back to what is the new normal and adjusting to that new normal. So if that's what you're feeling personally, I can only assume that how it carries over professionally will have an impact. I have talked to a few attorneys and said, can hiring officials require a vaccination? And it is a gray area right now. It is a gray area right now. Nobody is willing to put their neck out and say, yes, they can. I have not heard of even hospitals who are saying it is required. But it is strongly urged that you do get one because we all want to get to a point where we feel safe about sharing air. We all want to be able to breathe the same air and not be fearful of it. So I wish I had an answer for you when it comes to hiring, if people can require it. I don't have those answers yet because it's just so new.
Yeah, it is very new. As a matter of fact, Sean has a very good point here, which is interesting. Marriott is actually paying their associates to get it. So I think there's some creativity and there's some...
Marriott is doing it. I know Trader Joe's, I think, announced that they were doing it. Dollar General said that they were going to be doing it, so that they're going to be giving bonuses to get that. But is it required? We don't know.
Right.
I do feel, though, that the more that people feel comfortable being out and around and in restaurants and in inside areas and everything, because they're vaccinated and because of herd immunity, that people will feel more comfortable going to conventions. People will feel more comfortable. But our industry has changed. It has changed forever. It's never going to be like it was before.
No, never will be.
What we all have to do, the fun part about it is that we are all part of this reinvention.
Yep, we are.
You just have to be open-minded, flexible, go with the way the wind blows, and be creative and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. And I think once we can get over the hump of the vaccine, and they just had some the first time real data that did come out, and it was very positive. And I believe once we get over this, we'll do better. And it's interesting because the data that I read about has other countries ahead of us, like Israel already has like 56% of people that have already been vaccinated. Britain has 30% that have been, at least their first jab. It just seems as though the United States is a little lacking in that area.
Well, the other dilemma that we're in this country is that we've got, we're not acting as a country as a whole with the decision. The states are acting as individual states. So what I'm interested to find out was what's going to happen if one state opens up.
Right.
And people go to conventions there, but another state doesn't open up. Will that show an increase in tourism in that state versus another state?
Right.
And this is when I need a conversation with one of the many great attorneys in our area of if Texas or Florida opens up and convention cancels, will force majeure be? It is just so many different things that are happening with individual states.
Yeah. It's still in question, and we're still, every day is a different day. So all we can do is try to keep up with it and just.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we'll probably see. I think we'll see more passports. There will be a vaccination card. I think you'll see that people will conferences. I mean, I've heard that conferences can say only vaccinated people can attend,
Right.
and require that. So we're going to be seeing some changes in our industry.
Yeah, the gathering of Burning Man even announced in 2021, the only people that can attend are those that will be vaccinated. So it's going to be interesting with the new rules and regulations and how everybody wants to treat their own event.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know that you have some special takeaways for everybody that I'd like for you to share. I think that would be really important to make sure that people get some extra golden nuggets from you. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, and before I get into that, technology, I want to make sure that everybody, technology is going to be very key in the future. It has been for the last 10 or 15 years, but staying ahead of technology, knowing what hiring officials are looking for. As I said, people are hiring now people who have hybrid experience, who have virtual meetings experience. Before the pandemic, it seemed like the big experience everybody was looking for was Cvent. So know what technology is being requested out there and stay ahead of it. Do not be afraid of technology. It's not going away, and move forward with it.
And but I think that that will create more jobs too, don't you think?
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, that's great.
People will want to know, and these are kind of some of my takeaways. People will want to know what your pandemic story was. They will want to know, tell me what you did when the pandemic hit. And that is things like, if you were working, how you handled it, how you dealt with crisis management, how you managed upward with your organization, how you managed downward with your organization. So know your pandemic story. They don't want to hear, I always tell people my pandemic story was all of a sudden business just dropped out, and then I just watched 17 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. And then I picked up and started building again. But know what your pandemic story is, and make sure it's a good story that shows that you took action, that you put out fires, that you were the advisor, that you were the strategic manager of this pandemic story. So be prepared to tell your pandemic story. When you're looking for a job or looking to advance your career inside your organization, know who your hiring client is. Who is that person who's going to be hiring you? And try to find out as much about them. Find out what makes them tick. What are their key aspects? What are they looking at you for? What fire do they need to put out? If it's internally and you're already working, who's your hiring client who can mentor you maybe and move you up the ladder? What are their needs? And work with those needs that your hiring client has. The other thing, and this is so key, and we brought this up quite a bit, was keywords with your resume. We are dealing with technology now. We are dealing with applicant tracking systems. We are dealing with AI. We are dealing with all these things. And your resume has to be changed according to each ad that you apply to. So make sure that you use keywords, key phrases on your cover note and your resume, and that will help you get through that black hole of the applicant tracking system when you apply online.
Those are excellent key takeaways, and very important ones too. It's interesting how some things still apply today from the old way of getting a job, but yet there's been so many new ways and easier ways if people would just apply themselves. So we've had to reinvent ourselves. I'm sure everybody can be updating their resumes right now.
Yeah, and it's such minor things. Like I always tell people that create, on your resume, have an automatic hyperlink to an email address, have a hyperlink to your LinkedIn address. Hiring officials, I think the stats I saw was like 72% will look for your profile on LinkedIn before they even call you. So you might as well create a link and make it easy for them.
Right, exactly.
Make sure that your resume is a reflection of your LinkedIn profile. that there's not anything that is just, well, wait a minute, on your resume you say this, but this is what you see on LinkedIn. So I think it's also very important to have an up-to-date and cohesive LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I know there's a lot of experts out there that, you can hire, somebody can hire and putting the investment into something like this by hiring an expert or talking to an expert is key. I just think a lot of people just don't have the confidence to say, well, first of all, I haven't worked all year long. Now I don't have the money, but I don't think people realize the investment that is needed into helping you get a job is important.
Absolutely. And, and it's like also in a LinkedIn profile, which is very important, is your photo. By leaving out a photo, you are telling people who are looking at your LinkedIn profile that something's wrong. So always have a photo in there and I always say, you don't want the formal headshot anymore. You want it's a cross between who am I, nice photo, and a headshot. It has to be professional, but you want it to be something that people can read something on that photo about you about.
And it needs to be updated.
Yeah, easy. And change it often. Change it often.
Yeah.
It keeps people interested.
Well, it's interesting you say that because whenever I'm watching Netflix, they will have a photo of the movie. And then when I go and check it again, they've already changed it.
Yeah.
Just to keep your interest.
Well,
and it does. It works.
It's because we also have just so god-awful short attention spans.
We do.
I mean, it's like shiny object, we're gone. It's like, so deal with the shiny objects, create it, make it interesting.
That is so true. But what's wrong with keeping everybody on their toes and keeping that mystery of who you are if you're updating your photos or your Facebook page or your Twitter page or anything like that? Because the employers are going to be looking at not just LinkedIn, but they're going to be looking at all the other channels you have.
You got to remember your brand is you. So they are going to also be looking at your brand and who you are on Facebook. And I heard people say, well, they can't get into my Facebook account. Oh, yes, they can.
Yeah, they can.
They will. They can and they will. So make sure that, and somebody goes, well, what if I've got some things on there I don't want people to see? Then you have to post a lot of new stuff on there to get the bad stuff at the bottom.
Right.
So start posting really good stuff.
And that's where we get back into ethics again. So be careful what you say. We've seen a lot of people getting in trouble by just saying something, not worth. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it, especially this time when you're trying to look for a job.
It'll haunt you. It really will.
It will haunt you. You're absolutely right.
We've got enough haunting us now. We don't need to add to it.
Yeah. And, employers won't tell you. They won't tell you, well, this is why we didn't hire you. That's not their job. It's up to you to be accountable for what you are posting.
And they won't even not tell you. And it's because of litigious society. They don't want to get involved with he said, she said, and everything. So they're not going to tell you. They're just going to move on.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
And I tell you another minor thing, and I have moved on when I've called candidates, is what their voicemail looks like or sounds like.
Okay.
Professional voicemail. I mean, if it's a weird voicemail, I'll hang up.
Very good point.
So.
Very good point. Wow. This is unbelievable information that you have shared with us. And I can't believe we're almost out of time, but I do have one more question for you, just the kind of off topic. And that is, since we've learned so much from you today, what did you learn this past year? What is something that stood out for you that gave you an aha moment?
Well, we discussed the fact that, again, I'll tell you that I didn't have to dye my hair as often and everything like that. And saved a hell of a lot of money from that. But I would also, not that I didn't appreciate family and friends before, but they became I became more appreciative of it now. And I realized that you really can for the last year, we haven't been going out much. We haven't been doing much, but we've just been doing things and saying, well, let's try making bread. We've never done that before. Let's try doing this. I mean, the let's try this has been remarkable in this past year.
Good
And then
deal.
professionally, I would have to say professionally is to keep yourself open for opportunity
Good
and,
deal.
and recognize it when it happens.
Yeah, take the time to notice what you actually accomplished by learning something new and different.
Absolutely.
And now you're a bread maker.
Yeah. Once a week, I make a loaf of bread.
Once a week. That's great. That's great. Well, this has been such a great episode. The information that you have shared, I'm hoping that people will definitely apply, because this is the time to make yourself noticed. Right?
And Deborah, I want to say I'd be happy to look at anybody's resume if they want to send it on to me at dawn@meetingjobs.com. Just mention that we're on the show, and I'd be happy to take a look at it. I will not write it, but I will take a look at it and say, this is where you should make some changes.
Oh, that's very nice of you. And I think people should take advantage of that. And we've got that information right down at the bottom there. Dawn Penfold, Dawn at meetingjobs.com, or actually at her website too. Is that correct?
No, the website's not correct. It's meetingjobs.com.
Meetingjobs.com.
Yes.
Let's leave it at that. Okay, good. Everybody contact her there. And if you have any additional questions or comments for Dawn, by all means, you can contact her, and she would be delighted to continue this conversation, as I know many of us will be as well. So thank you so much. This was very, very helpful. Gosh, I'm just ecstatic by it. And I'm hoping to hear from others that have utilized the information that you have heard from Dawn here today. So Dawn, thank you so much again. I know you're busy. That's for sure. People are going to be looking for these jobs left and right before you know it. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. We had Dawn Penfold here with us, the president of Meeting Jobs, and again, formerly as a meeting professional that knows and understands what you are going through. By all means, you'll want to stay in touch with Dawn. And if you haven't had a chance to look at or hear all that has been mentioned here, by all means, take a look at the replay. We'll have that posted everywhere on all our social media links. And we do hope that you enjoyed this show, and we'll share it with other people as well. And we also want to thank our sponsor, visiblymedia, for being with us on this episode as well. And if you have any questions or any other comments, please email us at hello@hospitalitytodaylive.com. We would love to hear any feedback as well. And one other thing I want you to mark your calendar for here in the future is GMID Day. We are actually going to have an entire day of guest lineups. And who are they? Well, it turns out we're going to let the top leaders share some information on this show finally. And that is going to take place on Thursday, April 8th. And you don't want to miss the entire full day of 12 top leaders in our industry right here, back to back, talking about our industry and where we are today and where we're going to be in the future. So mark your calendar for Thursday, April 8th. Now, next up here on the show for next week, we actually have a very good longtime friend of mine, Ray Grace, who happens to be a professional mobile DJ. And Ray is going to be here to talk about his 40 years of experience in this business, along with his award-winning advice as a mobile DJ and the entertainment industry. He's also going to share with us what the events are happening, what kind of events are happening right now and what they're doing about it, along with the precautions that they're taking right now during the pandemic. And what does the future DJing look like, and so much more. So don't miss next week, same time, same channel. We'll have Ray Grace with us for a full hour of so much fun, because he is a lot of fun at the same time. So there you go. We were so happy that you were able to join us. And on behalf of our growing staff here at the Hospitality Today Live, I'm Deborah Gardner. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, if you're thinking about it, well, we're talking about it right here on Hospitality Today Live.